the summer school, and yet it moves. We need new education for new normality. In our final day, we are moving towards the main stakeholder of education, the students themselves. And today we are happy to welcome Jelena Vranješević and Olzhas Abdukhamitov. I'm sorry, I knew it. Abdukhamitov, who will present, Jelena, on one hand, the barriers and opportunities for students to be heard, and on the other hand, Olzhas will, from the student perspective, tell us about how it is to be a participative and active student, and also what he can do and what he has been doing as a peer and mentor to other students in his experience so far. Can I just ask Peter to change to the second slide? Yes, so students' voice, do we hear them? Just a few logistic things. Most of you have been with us for the full week, or at least for parts of the week. And you know already that the best thing to do when you're in the session is to keep your mics off. It makes a better sound for everybody. Okay, and I think this is also his sound, so I'll try to turn him off at least for the okay. And then for questions, which will happen after, we will use the chat. Please put your comment or question in the chat. If you want to speak, it's also possible. So far, nobody in the whole of the 5 days used this opportunity to speak, but we had lots and lots of comments, and the discussion was still lively through the chat and the comments there. So hopefully by the time Jelena starts, Olzhas will manage to come back and hear us. In the worst case scenario, we'll try to work around it, but not to make too much delay. I will give Jelena the floor now and ask her to start with her presentation. And I do hope that we also manage to have Olzhas and his presentation later. So Jelena, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. Well, thank you, Lana, for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to talk about something that's been my passion for more than 20 years. And this is giving voice to different marginalized groups, especially children and young people who are marginalized in many, many ways in our societies. Today I'm going to talk briefly about the concept of child participation. I'm going to talk about the benefits of participation and also the obstacles, like challenges we face when we try to implement the principle of participation especially in the field of education. Convention on the Rights of the Child introduces participation as one of the 4 basic principles on which CRC is based, together with non-discrimination, the best interest of the child, and life survival and development. Participation is also in convention presented as a group of so-called participative rights, so-called civil rights, like privacy, information, freedom of thoughts, freedom of expression, freedom of association, and so on. And it is also present as a special article, famous Article 12, that says that the child has the right to express his or her views freely in all matters affecting him or her, according to the age and maturity, evolving capacities. So, actually, what does it mean? It means first that every child is capable of expressing his or her view. age is not the barrier. We all know that when the child is born, he or she can communicate his or her perspective through crying or through smiling. So for us adults, the question is not do they understand us, but what should we do in order for them to better understand us? So we need to find the efficient channel of communication through which the child can express himself or herself. The next thing is that child should express his or her views in all matters that affect him or her. That means that we need to broaden our perspective on what are the issues that are directly connected to children's lives. One group of researchers gathered in a group called Children's Express, those are researchers from 8 to 18 years old. They were analyzing the image of the child in the main British media, newspapers. They had several conclusions about the child participation, and one is they say like this: you need to hear the voice of a children because we are also the citizens here and now, and there are a lot of things in which children are included, but such as education, but they are never consulted about it. So what we need is to think about many things that directly affect children, that we did not consider them as such. The next thing is that the children should express their views freely. That means that we as adults need to establish safe and supportive environment for them to be able to express their views. That also means that the child's opinion is paid attention to, and the child's opinion is respected. That doesn't mean that we need to fulfill all the children's needs, that we need to fulfill all their demands. That means that when we consult them, when we provide the space for them to be involved in decision-making process, then we need to give them very clear feedback, what we decided, why we decided in that way, the same way we would do when talking and cooperating with any adult. Participation is, I'm a developmental psychologist, and I will talk about benefits of participation first from the developmental perspective. For me, participation is very important because it provides, let's say, developmental continuity between the childhood and adulthood. It provides it supports, encourages development of competencies such as autonomy, critical thinking, responsibility, and a lot of other competencies that are very important for adult lives in democratic civil societies. We cannot expect the child to become responsible, critical thinking, autonomous critical thinking, if we did not give them opportunity to exercise those competencies when they were little. What we do in our societies is actually we make a huge developmental gap. We treat our children as incompetent, as irresponsible. We like to think instead of them. We usually say, let us do that, you are too small. We insist on compliance. And suddenly, when they become young people, then we used to say, well, you have to think on your own, you have to be independent, you have to be responsible. How if we did not teach them that? So by providing them space for participation, we actually enable them to exercise all those competencies that will be valuable in their adult life. A lot of studies has been done about the effects on participation, and it was showcased that participation influenced the critical thinking, metacognition, inductive and deductive reasoning, problem-solving skills, also self-regulation, organizing, planning skills, a lot of other autonomy in learning. Participation also fosters some communication competencies like listening skills, expressing attitudes, feelings, and needs in assertive ways, conflict resolution skills, teamwork, cooperation. Then it also fosters some pro-social competencies such as empathy for feelings, needs, position of other people, responsibility and care for others, solidarity. Participating by giving young people, children and young people, chance to participate in decisions that affect them, they gain a stronger sense of self-esteem, positive self-image. This is especially the case for children from marginalized groups. For them, participation is very, very beneficial. They also gain self-confidence and proactive attitude towards social environment. They gain some leadership skills, and most of the children who were given the opportunity to participate, when they grow up, they become strong advocates for children and the rights of young people. So these are all the benefits of participation, and I'm always wondering, when we know that it works and that is beneficial for young people, why don't we practice it? Why don't we create the opportunities for children to participate more? And now I will mention some of the obstacles on the level of society and also on the level of school as a part of society. One big obstacle for participation is the dominant image of the child that is present in a lot of, let's say, Western societies. We see our children as immature, as not competent enough, as dependent, not responsible enough. We see them as vulnerable, as passive recipients of our care and nurture. And this is something that is actually that contradicts to the essence of participation, because participation promotes the image of the child that is subject of rights, not object of rights, that is competent, that can be proactive participant in his or her own local community and local surrounding. So this is something that actually, this is the reason why participation is the issue of many, many debates. For us adults, it's much easier to think about protective rights or provisional rights than to think about participative rights, because it requires completely different image of the child. The next thing is that when we estimate children's capacities, we tend to compare children with adults. And this is not fair, because, we are more mature, we are more responsible. And not just that we compare children with adults, we do something even worse. We compare children with ideal adults. with adult who is always responsible, who cannot be manipulated, who is always rational, who always knows what is in his or her best interest, who can always estimate the consequences of what he or she does, and so and so. And knowing us, do you think that we are really always competent? Ilana is laughing. Do we really know what is the best for us? Can we be manipulated or not? There are a lot of times when we can be manipulated and so and so. But when we talk about children, we say no. They cannot participate because they don't have that capacities that only ideal adults have. So this is the game in which children are losers from the beginning, and they don't have a chance to compete at all. The next, let's say, misconception of us adults is that participation is not always in the best interest of children. Protection must come before participation. This is very subtle form of discrimination because it is said in a shape of caring for children. But what we usually forget is that children can be involved in their own protection too. We can consult children about a lot of things concerning their protection. So it's not always either protection or participation, but it is both protection and participation. Also, one of the very common complaints I hear from adults is that if we give children space to participate, it will lead to anarchy because we cannot fulfill the old demands of all children. And I always have to tell them that participation is not about that. It's not about fulfilling all the needs. Participation is about negotiation, about the dialogue, about thinking through different decisions. It's about empowering children to be in charge for the decisions about some issues that affect them. But it doesn't mean that you have to let children decide upon everything. There are a lot of things that you as adult, we can talk about that later. I'm not going to talk about it more. If you're interested, we can talk about it later. How to set up the boundaries, how to set up what are the things about that children cannot decide about. Because it's not in their best interest, but there are a lot of things that they can decide about. So it's about making a difference between something that they can decide upon and something that is not in their best interest. Also, one of the complaints I hear in schools is that participation is time consuming. It takes a lot of time. Teacher cannot work upon their regular curriculum. I have a problem with pronunciation of that word. If they let children participate, and this can also be one question for debate: how to make participation an integral part of our school system. Because now it is seen as a burden, additional work, extra work. It is not part of school ethos. It is not a part of school culture. How to make participation part of school culture. These are also the important questions. So when I was talking, just to make myself clear, when I was talking that we think that we know what is in child's best interest, this is also one of our misconceptions. As adults, we think that we always know what is in the child best interest because we were children once, and because we are so clever and rational and ideal, which is definitely not true. A lot of times we need to ask children. The main mistake that we make as adults is to think that we are experts for children's experience. and not children themselves. My favorite examples that I use many times when I'm talking to adults is I ask them, how many times as parents did you say, come to children, your child is playing and you have a lunch and you want to invite your child to have a lunch and you say, come to eat, you are hungry. Or get out of the water, you are cold. Put on your coat, you are cold. It's not put on your coat because the temperature is -1 and you'll catch a cold, which is a legitimate request. It's put the coat because you are cold. Come to eat because you are hungry, not because it's time to eat, you need energy in order to run and to continue playing after that, but you are hungry. So actually we think that we are experts for their experience, and this is very dangerous message that we send to our children. We are the experts for your experience, not you. And thanks to the mechanism of self-fulfilling prophecies, what we get is that we usually get adolescents, young people who really don't know what they want unless we tell them so. So this is something that we need to think about. And I will now mention two other potentials of participation. I talked about developmental potential, but participation also has strong transformative potential. Why? Because it transforms the power, it requires transforming the power relations between adults and children. Instead of hierarchical power model, in which the adult is on the top, the child is on the bottom, and the child needs to listen just because the adult is in his or her adult role. Participation introduces a cooperative model of power, in which the power is shared, in which there are a lot of dialogue, there are a lot of discussions, there are a lot of negotiations between adults and the children. Participation also transforms traditional role of adults and children. Usually the traditional role is that the adult is teacher and the children is a student. But now participation perceive both roles in both ways. Both roles are both teachers and students. Adult is teacher in a way that it encourages child development, using his or her power to create safe and stimulating space for child development. But at the same time, the adult is a student who learns about children's experience, about their perspective, and vice versa. Children is also student and also teacher who teaches adult about his or her perspective. And at the end, participation has also the strong emancipatory potential by creating different and promoting different image of a child. Thanks to participation, children can be seen as experts for their experience, active learners who are granted the status of citizens fully capable to be proactive in their communities. I hope that it was 15 minutes. Lana, correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you very much, Jelena. It was a little bit above 15 minutes, but it was definitely interesting, and we don't begrudge you those extra minutes because I think everybody was happy to hear what you were talking about. We already have a few comments when you were talking about how we treat kids with this, you're hungry and you're cold, how often we do it all the time, and how true this is. So we will now move, we'll have questions after, but we'll now move to Olzhas. And try to hear his experience as a young person now, but from the point of view of somebody who is very active social activist, and also somebody who now has this peer empowerment role, but also how this whole story started for him, and maybe a little bit about what was the role of education in the whole thing. So Olzhas, thank you very much for joining us, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Jelena, first of all, for your speech. That was very great. And thanks for Lana and Rafaela for giving me the opportunity to tell my story and why participation is important for me. So my name is Olzhas. I'm from Kazakhstan. Currently, I'm living in Astana. So story of me becoming a social activist. I mean, I didn't think about it as a from the academic part, but I felt it from the very young age. So I think because I was bounded to the fact that I was living in industrial city. So I think first and very basic thing that we felt is that we had no choice rather than to cooperate and to participate in everyday life of our city. So beginning from school times, I had participated and organized food fairs, charity fairs, and etc. And in that terms, my participation, I felt as a person equal to adult, that I can actually organize something, that I can actually go and fundraise some money for the needs of our people. So in that terms, when I was organizing such things, I felt that I'm really equal to those people, and they can actually talk to me in the way I want them to. I want them to talk to me, because when you are a child, as Elena said, you're always nurtured from every side from the adults. So it's hard to express your shared feelings. It's hard to express your mind because usually you are trapped in the notion that you're a child, you don't know anything. So you better just sit and see how the adults do the work. But from the very childhood, I was against this. I was trying to do something myself and always joined with my friends and did things like this. But when I was becoming a student and I becoming older, I think student life impacted me the most, because the things that I was doing, like the active participation and stuff, was to the extent that I felt that doing this is good, but I didn't think about the rationality and usage of rational usage of resources thing. So in that terms, I think giving the children participation is good. When you them critical, when you teach them, not just giving you everything that you can or everything that you do the others, being more rational and asking yourself why I'm doing this. So in that terms,
I'm sorry.
University helped me a lot.
The sound is breaking.
I guess two things helped me a lot. First, debate club. I'm a member of debate club Nomad. So
Olzhas, we can't really hear you well. Can you hear me? We hear you, but with breaking. So try to turn off your camera. Just turn off your camera and try to speak without the camera.
Can you hear me? Oh yeah.
Okay, try now.
Can you hear me now?
We hear you, yes. Let's try it this way. Thank you. Olzhas, unfortunately, no, but you have... I'm sorry, everybody. We'll try to fix this. Yeah, he actually seemed to have left the meeting. I'm very sorry about this problem, but let's see. I hope he can join us in a minute. Meanwhile, if anybody has any comments or questions,
I received one question from Sanya sorry, I didn't.
McMurtry.
Okay, I don't have the last name here. It's about the fact that image of the child depends on the culture, and that Southern Slavs mother are more prone to raise the children in a way that I
Can you
described.
hear me now?
Are we going to listen to
Let's
Olzhas
see.
now?
If Olzhas can speak, let's see.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Olzhas, if you hear us, try speaking without the camera.
Okay, may I answer just in the meantime. Of course that everything is about the culture. My point was that whatever culture we are talking about, if the children and adults role, if there is a big gap between child and adults role, then you will have that kind of problem. There are some cultures where there is no gap between childhood and adulthood, and in that cultures, adolescence is not the period of crisis and of turmoils and storm and so and so. But if you have in one culture the fact that you expect from the child something different than from adult, then you will have a problem. And of course, it's about the culture. And I'm not talking about the old cultures in the whole world. I'm talking about the cultures in which there is a gap between child and adult.
Thank you, Jelena. Let's see if we have more luck. There are more questions coming in, but let's see if we have more luck with Olzhas now without camera. Try, Olzhas. Let's try.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yes. Try to keep the camera off. I think that somehow
okay.
maybe the connection is not too strong. And let's try it that way.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then it means it's lagging, so that's fine. So in which part did I stop when you can hear me?
You started about what the student life happened and how you were a debater, and that helped a lot.
Okay. So basically, two things helped me very much in that terms. In order to be like much efficient participant, I think debating and first of all is debating, because in that club people taught me how to be like how to think critically, how to assess the things, and how to debate with adults in order to explain them why you actually can do the things. So the second one, I guess, is the philosophy seminar of Peter Singer. He's a quite prominent philosopher about effective altruism. So when I was as I said before, when I was a child, I was trying to help everyone and everybody without calculating my resources and calculating the effectiveness of my help. In that terms, the lecture of Peter Singer was about effective altruism, and you should actually participate and do the things that can be much more efficient to the groups that are effective altruism. So to the groups that can actually be more discriminated in that terms. So in that case, we with our friends stopped doing the charity fairs for the single person, because when you're doing a garage sale, charity, food fair, or whatever, you're usually fundraising the money for the only one person that might go to the Israel, South Korea to make an operation, etc. And that is not very cost efficient, because you are saving only one person. every life matter, but still. Then we decided to fundraise the money in order to bring like one doctor or one surgeon to the country, and that could actually make his surgeons in more efficient way to make like not one single operation, but surgeon for 30 or 40 children at once, so that we can afford it. And another my friend went like in a bit another way. He made a business. He made a social cafe. It is in our university actually, and people with mental diseases are working there. So in that terms, those people are helping like each other, because the customers are helping them to come back to the social life. Because usually people with mental, I mean, in Kazakhstan, usually people with mental diseases are not treated very well in that terms, because people usually do not understand how to analyze and how to diagnose the people with the mental illnesses. So in that terms, they aren't treated very well. They started to work in our cafe, and now they are more sociable, so people can talk to them. They are serving the orders to the people, and the people are usually nice to them, like showing that they are part of our community. So in that terms, why here the participation matters, because I think that most of the adults would in Kazakhstan wouldn't count as a problem, for example, the mental issues of the people, or if they're even existing, because in our country there is still a stigma of there is no actually mental illnesses, because adults think that basically mental illnesses are that you are not doing anything, so that's why you are ill or something, or depressed. But actually, when we are as children or students trying to participate, it makes a lot of deal, and it makes us able to fundraise and personally spend money in terms of teaching us how to budget, how to plan the things. That is very important in that terms. So in debating club, in order to have novices, in order to have other participants, you must encourage other students to participate. So I guess the best two strategies is first of all creating some identity around the things, for example, this works for the case when the children don't want to participate themselves. So I think two basic problems they don't want, because first of all they think that they cannot do it because they are not adult, as Elena said before. Second one is not the absence of will, but absence of opportunities, I guess. So and actual will that they see something there. So two things in order to encourage them. First one is identity, basically to create identity around your club, to create identity about the things you're working on. So that will basically make those children interested to participate, because there's some there will be some identity that will unite them around one problem. And second one is real results and cases. When you show them actual results and cases to the children that want to participate, they will be willing to solve more problems, even though they're children, students, etc. So I think obstacles and problems I see globally. Elena already said most of them, unfairness, inability to participate, being stigma of being too young or inexperienced. That is the thing that I faced after I graduated the university, when I was looking for a job or any sort of internship or stuff. But the adults tend to say to me that, oh, you're too young, you cannot do this job. However, I was actually able to do this job. I was actually able to do this job better than the person that is doing it now, even though he was adult and he was 10 or 15 years older than me. So I think that is about mostly the obstacles and problems that I faced. Is that stigma that people are usually tagging children or students because they are inexperienced, they are immature. So about participation in Kazakhstan, I guess we have children and student participation in Kazakhstan now, because we have school governments and student governments. but still, in the most of the places, they are not working properly. In the most cases, they are just abdominal. They are actually there, but they are not working to the extent that they actually could. And like adults are not giving the like a broader space to them in order to work. Luckily, I was studying in both like school and university that allowed me to participate like for the vast majority of cases. So in our university, student government is working very hard with the student, like with the university administration, in order to make like the life of the students brighter and easier. And our university administration is quite friendly in that terms, if I can say so, because they're always open for any initiatives from students. They're always like welcome, even like changing the university curriculum or any other like initiative that students want to help with others. So that is basically my story. If you have any questions, sorry for
Thank you very much.
I don't know.
It worked out in the end. Fantastic, Olzhas. Thank you so much. I think you opened very many questions from this like personal story and I try to type them up in the comments so that we can discuss them later. So there was the whole thing about absence of opportunity to participate. When there is opportunity, is it real opportunity or is it fake? The school governance, school boards that we see in all of our countries, the structure is there, but how is it used, and is it really properly used? About identity, I thought was important that you said that young people need to feel that they are belonging to something.
Yeah.
And this idea of having an identity of as a debater and you have your own community makes them more open to participation. I wonder what that means for schools. Could schools be these places where they have this feeling of belonging? And they could, if they could participate, I'm sure. The stigma of being young, and yeah, all excellent points. I now open for everybody. Maybe Jelena, do you want to maybe respond to anything that Olzhas has said, or should we go straight to the comments? Okay. So the comments that we've had so far, you've already answered Sanya's question about culture and whether this is influenced by culture or not. The next question comes from Ezgi. Very important points. Mechanisms need to be established and the child supported to ensure participation and sustainability. If distance education continues, how can mechanisms be established to ensure child participation? What should be considered to balance when home and school environments are intertwined, especially for avoiding tokenism? Thank you very much, Ezgi, for this question. I think it is one of the things that has been left completely aside in this first rush to get any sort of education live while we are in distance learning. And what happens to participation in school life if we continue this online life? Jelena, what do you think? And then we'll also give Olzhas a chance to respond.
Now I'm reading to the comment because I couldn't hear you. I couldn't hear the first part of your what you were talking.
Sorry. So it's about whether we can have some kind of participation mechanism if online and distance education continues with this pandemic that is not stopping yet.
Yeah. To tell you, it's a very difficult question. It's a very difficult question.
Olzhas, any ideas from your side? We'll give Jelena a minute to think if you have some response to that.
I think we have like no other choice. So rather than adapt, because the mechanisms could be like creating some apps or creating some like space for them, that then they can talk and actually like think of something that they want to do as a like school kids or university students, because in that terms now, first of all, it's easier to participate to that. I mean, it's easier to participate now because they can like they can create like their own Discord, they can create their own Zoom link or whatever. So in order to them to make like to gather like easily, because they're actually sitting at home and their parents wouldn't be so careful about them and wouldn't care about them so much. The second problem, I guess, the second thing, I guess, is another side that they cannot actually do the things like by their hands or like organize something, but they still can come up with some ideas that can actually help. For example, like doing some online charities or like online games or online like active participation for the school curriculum, that the things that they want to learn or they don't want to learn, or at least express their feelings about their homeworks and other things that they're actually bounded to now. Because it's very hard to work or study at home because like it's totally another atmosphere, so it is very hard to you to get adapt. But still, now they can like facing the reality, they can actually say that the things that they don't like. So might be that might be helpful for them in order to like speak up. That they actually cannot do, for example, so much homework at home, or they cannot actually like doing anti-cheating measures that the professors or teachers are asking for them. So I guess that is the only option for now.
I think what you say is important to say, that actually somehow this online, as much as we don't like it, or at least I don't like it, maybe I think there are people who actually like it, because it gives them the opportunity not to speak. You see, they can participate through this less exposed way, maybe. So in a classroom, if you want to speak up, you need to expose yourself. And maybe some things like this are easier online through comments or through things like that. That's maybe just one thing. But yes, in general, I think that most of the participation can happen online as well, as Olzhas pointed out. Now we can really speak up about all the homework that we have, and that it's undoable in the time that we have, and there we are really overburdened with too many tasks that we should do in one day. Some participation, of course, is not so easy. Jelena, did you come up with another comment?
Well, I didn't come up with a solution. This question really provoked me to think why I was afraid when I hear the question, because you know we are in a period of crisis. We are in a period of uncertainty. We don't know how our lives will look like in 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, and that really frightens me. And we still do not have a plan what to do if this situation continues, and how to reorganize, and how to come to the level of, let's say, new normality. What I realized is that some principles of genuine participation are the same, whether we are in whether we have a distant education or we have the education that we used to have. So a lot of things, a lot of initiatives, a lot of things that we usually do, how to empower children to have ideas, how to consult them, how to involve them in some actions that about the issues that they care about, can be done through internet also. Sometimes consulting children might be even easier. As you said, there are a lot of children who don't like to speak actually, but you know, consulting through the online consulting might be doable, and for some children might be very efficient way to express their perspective. So what we need to be very careful is to follow the principle of genuine participation, to inform children, to consult them, and to include them in decision-making process. So these are 3 important things. And not to manipulate with their opinions, not to it's very easy to see what is tokenism and what is genuine participation if we go through some checklist. First, you have to involve children in something that really matters to them. The topic and the way of participation need to be decided together with children. or by children themselves. If you involve children in something they do not have competencies to be fully involved, first you need to provide them opportunity to gain the competencies in order to participate in something. So these are participation needs to be voluntarily. These are the principles that we can follow, and we follow even through online teaching or through offline tete-a-tete teaching. So
yeah,
how it will be achievable, I still don't know, but I think that some genuine principles of genuine participation is not going to be changed, and sometimes even that distant learning might have also the benefits for students who are not so motivated to speak freely and to speak in front of a large group. They can do that online more freely.
Yeah, I think we cannot solve what will happen with this this thing, but yes, I think the principle of participation must stay with us, and then not to forget about it, because I think this first 3 months almost completely took any form of participation away from students, and I don't think anybody was thinking about it. Even organizations like Council of Europe, whose democratic governance of school is like the principle that they work on, even they couldn't deal with this situation now. So I think it's something that that at least needs to be talked about, and then not to be forgotten fully. I want to go back to this question.
Maybe we can use, sorry, Lana, just to, because you and Olzhas provoked me, and thank you for that. Maybe we can use this time to really consult our students. Because use of internet, use of computer is the natural way of how they function. They feel more comfortable with the computer than than adults. So maybe we can find different ways of how to elicit their perspective on different things. On school curriculum, on different school subjects, on parent-child relationship, parent-teacher relationship, teacher-children-students relationship, on different aspects of school life. We can find some interesting, for them, approachable ways of getting to know their perspective. And we have time, and we do not have burden of time as we have when we are at schools.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jelena. I just really want to go back to this school governance and student participation in democratic governance of schools. Most of the countries, and we have quite a few, around at least 10 countries people are from in this session, and they can put the comment in the comment. I think most of them have some form of student governance in the policies of schools, from what I know. But I find that this fake way of doing the student governance is actually more dangerous than not having it at all. Because kind of it prepares you for your vote means very little. We gave you some rights, but actually we don't listen to you. We select people into the student governance who, for some reason, the teacher likes, but there is no real proper process in this. And this actually gives a completely wrong learning of what the aim of student governance is. So I just want to see if you and either of you have an idea of how this could be overcome. Because this has been there for at least 10 years in our countries, if not longer. And we still haven't seen a lot of success in it, at least, of course, in few schools, there's always exceptions. But in general, not. Any comments from either of you on that? Anna wants to say something. Maybe I can give her a voice, and then is that okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anna, please.
Hello. I'd like just to share our own experience as we are supporting already for the third year project supported by Open Society Foundation's Youth Exchange Program. You know, this is empowering young people in schools to engage in decision making at local level. And the problem that we faced with this student governance in school. It was very formal, dominated by teachers, principals. So people, these councils were formal, organized, responsive in front of management staff, teachers. So we addressed this issue. My purpose was to involve, are not willing to involve, consider it important to involve. And the first year was addressing these young people, to involve without discrimination, without any bias, engage them in this process. And by end of the first year, we with help of our experts, teach them how to involve, engage election process, and create a council of student council elected based on their needs, interests, and the willingness to involve. Then second year, they empowered, they developed their own skills of leadership, communication skills, all with raise of skills and competencies you Jelena, were talking about. And in this year, we decided that we need to exercise, to practice these skills, what we were also underlying. And we decided to add a debate component to the project. And in middle of March, the schools were shut down. We turned to distance education, and we were facing a problem what to do with this initiative. To close the project, what to do. And together with experts, we develop trainings to involve them in this process of distance learning through Zoom platform. And yesterday we have the last competition between these student councils, and it was really rewarding. We were very happy that these young people each week were being connecting with their experts. We're preparing very seriously. We address issues of most important questions they face in the school environment. And from all this, based on discussions, they choose the most important topic, and it was one that connected directly with pandemics. How to assure hygienic conditions, proper conditions in their school, what to do, especially of this current situation. And it was debated, and the most important from our side is that we came to a conclusion that these young people, even being very overwhelmed by their responsibilities to get in touch with teachers, to prepare the homework and so on, anyway, we found time to connect, to discuss, to involve very actively, very passionate, and they understood by the end that they were lucky that besides this homework or classes, online classes, they have this opportunity to focus on problems of their own interest, of their own own priorities. And it was really an exercise that convinced us that they can develop their skills and competencies even on this format, virtual format. It's not a barrier, because we are very familiar with technologies, they are connected via mobile phones, so it's not a problem. Just the most important is to direct their energy, their attention. And when you have all this outcome from their side. So I don't think we were afraid at the beginning, but now I understand that we should trust them more, and we can together move things. And really the difference between at the beginning of a project and now is very huge. Most of them develop their own skills. They are not so shy. They can involve, they can talk to their teachers, to their raise problems. So this transformation is very, very interesting. So just a concrete case, how you can approach this. Thank you. Sorry
Thank
that
you,
it's
Anna.
too much time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, very much for this concrete example of how it works online. I think this is what is actually true. And I think we have a few comments. I don't know if Jelena or Olzhas want to say something, or should I go to the comments?
I don't have anything. I mean, I have something to say on comments, so you can just start the comments.
Okay, so there is a comment, one comment about what happens and how do we know what's happening at home now that the school is happening in home. So it's between parents and children much more than parents in school, and whether this this will also affect somehow governance, because now governance is changed. Now parents are in charge, or maybe children can be self-governed themselves. I guess this is about learning. Visha has a comment about that student governance itself will not change anything until there is a mental shift among teachers, well, or adults. Seeing children and young people with equal dignity, and not only as not yet adults, they only need our help to develop. Young people recognize well when they're talked down to and when they're patronized during this process, or of invitation to participate. So yeah, the patronization is the one that makes them not. Teachers feel that they lost control. Another comment of students: cannot see them, cannot see if students are sitting on their chairs. So yeah, so these are just some comments about.
I think I would like to comment on the teachers part. Like during this call, we were talking about on the children and their attitude and how to encourage them. But I think this comment is right in the terms that we didn't mention the teachers because like we have children, we have their participation, but we have also the part of the teachers where they usually like where they usually are not prepared to the case when the students will talk like when students are trying to talk them as the equal. Because I think in that terms like many not I wouldn't say like old but not modern teachers would not accept the fact that your student or your pupil try to talk with you on the equal basis. So that is the thing that I think can be changed through the like now, because now you can see the face of your students, or you can see. I mean, you can see, but you cannot physically see, and it's harder to like talk them down because now they're like online, and it's harder to them to press by their authority or whatever. Because usually when you're like talked down by someone who is elder, is because he's like expressing his authority through the fact that he is actually older and more mature than you. But here, I guess, for the like students, it's now easier to take control of like their things, or like usually if you're not even like reading, if you're not even talking like through the internet, you can always write the email, you can always write the message that you think like this things are wrong. And I think like personally it's better to do it in this way. So that's just my opinion on that comment.
So you're saying actually the power balance kind of changed. The power balance between.
Yeah.
Especially because just to add two things. One is what you just said, that the power balance has changed in a way that now as adults, teachers, now we realize that there are a lot to learn from our students. when it comes to technology, when it comes to different ways of communication, they're more used to that than us, and we can learn from them. So in that sense, we are not owners of the whole truth as we used to think. Now we realize that there are a lot of things that we can learn from our students, and this attitude might be present now. And the second thing is, when we talk about students' participation, and you mentioned the students' parliament and other initiatives that were not successful at the beginning. I read the conclusion of one study like 10 years ago, and it really stuck with me. It said they said that teachers are not going to support students' participation because it might reveal their inability to participate. We expect teachers to support participation, and they do not have experience of participation, neither as adults in their profession, nor when they were kids. So it's very difficult for them to support students' participation when they themselves cannot participate in education, in educational reforms, in different things, that educational policies and everything. So this is also something that we need to think about, to give teachers more, to enable and to foster teachers to be included more in educational policies and what's going on the educational level.
Yeah, so it's kind of empowering teachers for participation in order for them to be able to empower students. I also want to go back. Thank you very much. I think both of these comments and everything we've heard so far is very relevant, not only for today's situation of COVID, but generally when we talk about participation. I want to go to the point that Olzhas made in his talk about how when he wants to encourage people to join their community, the debate club and so on, how they work a lot on this, having an identity and belonging. And I wonder what you think, either of you or even the audience, about how schools, I mean, this is something that seems to be also missing, that we don't have this identity to belong into a school. It's not really like we feel it as our community. And I guess then, because also said that when he started working and started being active, it was about his community, a rather small community which had a lot of things he could see, and it was easier to start being active because of this feeling of community. Is there something that you would like to reflect on this point?
I think personally, like the idea of identity is very vague. In the terms that for the certain needs, you need identity. For example, in our debating club, in order to make like new novices or new members of the like debate club, we made, for example, our secret chat or like a secret commencement thing that triggers the most of the people like as a secret, so that they, in the fact, they want to know. This part of identity for me is the one like advertising things. But another part of identity which we're creating is that we are a strong club, and we are doing some serious business here. So if you want to join, you should do something. This, I guess, provokes most of like young like students and freshmen that they want to do actually something good, and they want to like do most of the things that they weren't able to do in school because they were shy or etc. And here, when they see like real results, and that the club is actually governed by the students who are not adults that would like make them do the things that they don't want to do or anything. I think this part is like more attractive for the students. So that's why, if like drawing the parallel with school kids, I think so. Why I talked about the student governments actually. I think the student government models can be like united around the idea of identity if they would use it in the like certain way, if they would create their own their own motto, their own like secrets, their own some identity tricks. I think in that terms they can encourage more like students and school kids to participate in like on daily basis on their like routine job or whatever.
I think that comes out here that in peer empowerment, so student to student, is just as important as teacher to student. Jelena, any comments on this?
Just one thing, that actually you empower that identity of belonging by participation and by seeing that your actions have some results. So this is the most important thing, that you know that you are doing something that can make a difference and that has some impact. Doing something but just because of the sake of doing actually does not make any results. But when you know that your action can change something, can influence something, that it strengthens your identity of belonging to a certain community.
Okay, we have a comment here that there are still problems on both sides, but things have improved in recent years. Would you agree, Jelena?
I do in a sense that I'm working with teachers, and I listen to their stories. I think that they are more willing to accept that students have competencies and that they can do a lot of things that like 10 years ago they thought that they couldn't do. But now they acknowledge their competencies, and this is something this is a very good beginning. And they are even ready to learn from them in some aspects. They are more ready to consult them, to listen to their perspective than like 10 years ago. Because I think that now they realize that they benefit from that. By consulting students, they can be more certain that decisions will be in the best interest of the students. So it helps them in many, many ways.
Okay. Olzhas, do you think things have improved in the last 10 years? I think we lost Olzhas again.
His mic is there he is.
Yeah. Do you think things have improved?
I think gradually. I mean, in Kazakhstan things get improved. You can hear me.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
I think in Kazakhstan, like things has gradually like improved in the terms that student governments are more effective, I guess, because now also parents are involved. Parents understand the fact that if your kid is actually active, they can he or she can actually do more things that only schooling. He can be active in terms of being like in some social clubs. He can be active and this makes like children to be more developed in terms of not only like schooling and not only subjects, but also other sides of the children themselves. So I think things has gradually improved since parents are actively involved in their life. Yeah,
okay,
I mean, yeah.
Okay. There's a question for Jelena. Jelena, considering how many years you work with teachers on this topic, how frustrating is to keep repeating the same message on student voice and participation to teachers and seeing only small changes? Just curious.
I have a saying. I mean, it's not my saying. I heard it and I liked it. God, give me some patience, but please hurry up. So this is my. It is. Sometimes it is frustrating, but when I start to empathize with teachers and try to see the perspective of teachers, then things become easier. Then I know what to say and how to present the idea of child participation so that they can digest it. At first I was an activist who is trying to, to introduce in in a little bit violent way the idea of child participation. This is great. You all have to do that. And actually, I didn't think about their position. I didn't think about their perspective. That they cannot see the benefit of participation because they didn't have participation in their own experience. So first, I need to show them that they can benefit from the students' participation, and then they will be able to chew it, to digest it. I'm just thinking, one teacher, we had an interview in one school, and she told me about the problem she has with a 12 years old student whose parents are going through a very difficult divorce, and from a person who was loved in the classroom, he started to withdraw from his friends, and the friends started to neglect him a little bit, and she was wondering whether she should tell his friends what's going on in his private life so that they can be able to understand him, or to protect the privacy of the student. And she asked me, what should I do? And I talked to her, and at one point I said, why don't you talk with the child and tell him about your dilemma and tell him about the implications of both decisions, and ask him what he would like you to do. And she said, oh my God, it's so simple. I never thought about that. I'll do that. So these are the small, changes when they realize that actually child participation, consulting children can make their lives easier.
Okay.
So we need to have more of that examples.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they thank you. It was a great lecture, inspiring conversation. Okay, we're happy about that. Do we have more comments or questions from anybody? Yeah. I don't think we do. So if Olzhas or Jelena want to say something for the very end about what your next steps in your life, Olzhas, is maybe, and how you will continue your peer empowerment of your students. Jelena, also anything that you would like to add. Olzhas, you can start.
Yeah, thank you very much for this lecture. It was very inspiring. I'm starting my master's this fall, actually. And it is it's about public administration. So I'm trying to use my skills of empowerment in order to learn and teach further. So, and currently we're working on projects for school students to go with them to the World Schools Debating Championship. So we actually had the national trials like a couple of weeks ago for the WSDC. So I guess I will keep the track on that way, because I think really the empowerment of young students and school students are very I think the thing that I like the most, because when I see the results that they are achieving, I'm very glad. And when they are starting their own projects that we actually can support, or they're fundraising for themselves and they're projects that they are starting, we're very happy, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for this lecture.
Yeah, I think this feeling of when you manage to see the results of your work are always the best reward. Jelena?
I would like to thank Anna and Egzi for my next steps, for what am I going to do in the future. Anna actually showed me that when some initiative is good, it's good both online and offline. And Egzi provoked me to think of how to preserve and empower genuine participation in new circumstances, in online world, in online education, and I'm going to think about that more.
Okay. Well, thank you, Olzhas and Jelena, very much, and all of our participants.
And thank you, Olzhas, also for sharing your story with us.
Yes, it has been very, very good for us. I think one of the things that we can do is when we have these conferences and meetings, we often talk about student participation, but very rarely do we actually have young people present who could tell us about their experience. So we're trying to make a step towards that. I would just like to thank everybody for not only these 2 days, but a lot of you have been with us for the 5 days. For us, it has been a first experience of virtual summer school. I still would like to go back to the real summer school, but it's also my problem about adapting to, I guess, not the new normal, but the new reality. So everybody, thank you so much. Olzhas and Jelena, once again, thank you. And until we meet again, it has been a good day as well. Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Ciao.
Bye.